We're gonna prepare a pumpkin cheesecake with a pistachio and Biscochito crust. The first part of the recipe is our crust. We have a springform pan. We have some crushed Biscochito cookies, which I have some uncrushed here. Our pistachios, sugar, and melted butter. The first step is gonna be to line the bottom of our springform pan. So we can take a piece of parchment paper. To create a circle, we'll fold the parchment paper into triangles. Just like that. And we can use the bottom of the pan to cut the triangles to fit the bottom of the pan. So we just line it up here and kind of cut along the pan there. That gives us a nice circle that fits perfectly in the bottom of our pan. I'm using wax parchment paper so it doesn't stick, but we want to line the bottom just like that. Before our butter finishes melting, we're going to puree or blend our pistachios. So I took the Biscochito cookies and I added them to a food processor, and I'll do the same for the pistachios. And we want to pulse these just until it's the consistency of crumbled sand. Just like that. Now we have a quarter cup of melted butter. In a small bowl, we'll add 2.5 cups of our Biscochito crumbs, our ground pistachios, a quarter cup of granulated sugar, and then we'll stir in our melted butter. Once that's all nicely combined, we'll take our springform pan and pour our crust right in the pan. We want to create a flat crust at the bottom, so we can use a rubber spatula to press the crust down so it's nice and flat all the way around. Now I've got it oven heated to 350 degrees. We're gonna pop this in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes until it's nicely toasted. All right, now we're gonna prepare our pumpkin cheesecake filling. The first ingredient starts with 24 ounces of cream cheese. We're gonna add this to a mixer bowl. We'll use a paddle attachment to whip that until it's soft. Once the cream cheese is softened a little bit, we'll add our granulated sugar. And we'll continue to mix. Once the mixture is well softened, we're going to add 3 eggs, one at a time. We can add our second and third egg while it's still mixing. Now I'm going to use a rotary spatula to scrape down the sides of the mixing bowl. Here we can add the remainder of the ingredients. So we've got some pumpkin puree, I've got some flour, nutmeg, kosher salt, vanilla extract, cinnamon, and ground ginger. And we'll continue to mix until that's fully incorporated. Now, once everything is mixed, we're ready to prepare the cheesecake. We have our toasted crust. We'll add our cheesecake mixture. You want to tap this down so it's nice and flat. I got an oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to set the cheesecake in and bake it for 60 to 70 minutes until it's well set in the center. Now we're going to prepare our New Mexico pecan brittle. It's a very simple recipe, but it takes a little bit of time. The first step is to caramelize sugar. So we're going to take granulated sugar and add a splash of water. And we're going to allow this to cook over a medium-high heat for about 8 to 10 minutes. The trick is don't touch it. Just let it cook, don't stir it. It'll start to caramelize on the bottom, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that the sugar's cooking, we're gonna wait for about 8 to 10 minutes until we see it become a deep amber color. We're just about the point where it's gonna be nice and caramelized. This next piece, you have to move kind of quickly. We wanna have all of our ingredients ready for the next step. So I have New Mexico pecans, butter, baking soda, salt, and vanilla extract. Once we get to this caramelized brown color, we are going to, so we'll remove the sugar mixture from the heat, and you'll see that it's nice and brown. We're gonna first add our butter. And this is very hot, so you wanna keep stirring constantly. We'll add our pecans, which will start to cool down a little bit. Then we'll add our vanilla extract. A little bit of salt. And I'll bring this back to the heat for just a second. Just to warm it up once again. And we'll add our baking soda. Now the baking soda is going to react with the water and the sugar, and it's going to create crevices or bubbles, which give the brittle kind of an airiness, which we really like. Once that baking soda is all mixed in, I'm going to use 2 pieces of wax paper. We'll pour the brittle down right on the wax paper. And we will use another piece of wax paper on top. And this is very hot, so you want to be careful. And we'll just use a rolling pin to flatten it out. And the thinner, the better. You'll get a nice, crisp, crunchy brittle. Now we'll let this set for about at least an hour or so to cool down. Once it's set, you'll get a nice, crispy pecan brittle. Now that our cheesecake is finished baking, we let it cool overnight in the refrigerator and we're ready to plate. First things first, we want to remove the cheesecake from the springform pan. What we'll do is we'll run a butter knife just around the edges to make sure it hasn't stuck anywhere. Just like that. Then we can release the latch on the pan. You can use a spatula to move our cheesecake onto a platter. Just like so. And we want to garnish it with some crushed New Mexico pecan brittle. So we'll take our finished brittle, toss it in a bag. And we'll just take a rolling pin, just give it a couple whacks. And then take our pecan brittle and sprinkle around the cake. Then I like to add, we've got a couple of little pumpkins for decor. I've got some New Mexico Biscochitos. Make it add right in. And now we have our pumpkin cheesecake with New Mexico pistachio and Biscochito crust, topped with a New Mexico pecan brittle. For this recipe and more, go to elevatenmegg.com.